think you appreciate why I still get very emotional. One of my clients in Ballarat said, if you ever stop crying, stop working. And he reminded me that the first time he had ever spoken about his abuse, I watered up and he said, you're the first person who's shown you understand. So yes, I'm very lucky and privileged in a way to work with these men who've been brave enough to put their face out there and their story. So please, I'll run up to the mic with you if you can ask some questions. Bretty was on the editing committee and Dave has attended 2 of the weekends. So I was just very lucky in Melbourne. We had 6 of them. I've got 2 of them here with me today. Where do I run?
Well, I think I'm probably speaking on behalf of the whole audience, really. That was a fantastic film. And a very selfish question, but again, probably on behalf of the whole audience. Where can you get a copy of it? But I've got a kind of wider question, really, which is I'm very conscious that it was a very moving weekend, clearly, for everybody involved. And obviously an enormously valuable initiative. But as you're probably well aware, there's only a minority of male survivors who can attend those weekends for a whole variety of reasons, some for logistical reasons, family reasons, others simply because they can't, they've not told anybody, so the mere prospect of going to an event like that is too scary from the word go. So are there other means by which you can help male survivors? And I'm thinking particularly of if people can't meet in person. You talked about phone calls, people phoning each other after the event, but through writing, through reading the accounts of other survivors, other techniques that don't necessarily involve people having to come to a physical meeting and share. They can share in other ways. We can all share in other ways by reading about other people who've had experiences like us. It's just kind of general comments about how useful you think that is as an alternative. It's clearly not going to have as much impact as that sort of weekend, but it may be able to help people who can't, as I said, get to events like that. Sure.
I think there's plenty of resources out there along those lines already. Just off the top of my head, malesurvivors.org. There's a lot of videos about child sexual abuse on YouTube. So they're definitely out there, and you can find people who are sharing those experiences, and you can definitely take back those experiences. But I mean, this documentary is really about trying to engage people in human contact, because it's that isolation it stops you from fulfilling that need to heal. So this is a primary purpose that we made this documentary, is to try and engage people and say, you know, we understand what you're going through, we understand what you've been through, we know the isolation, the hurt, the pain, the everything that goes with that. But if you can reach out and try to touch people and be with people, it just helps immensely. So you start realising that all these things that you thought were wrong with you weren't really wrong with you. They're just things that emanate once you're recovering from childhood sexual abuse. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Fine, thank you.
I have 20 copies of the doco with me, or 20. No, 11 I can sell. So it's right. Also, it's totally available as a download on sakaza.com.au. It's still free at the moment.
I think also all those resources are available, and checking those out can be really helpful. I can only speak from personal experience and probably reflect what the rest of the guys from the Malden sort of collective say, that it's a catalyst to getting there, because as one of the guys said, the abuse happens in isolation and the recovery happens in company, and that's certainly my experience.
One more thing I might add is Originally, before I did the weekend, I was going through counselling with CCASA, and one of the things they offered was a evening for 8 weeks. Just one night a week, you come and you see a group of guys. It's only a couple of hours. So, you know, even if you can't make a whole weekend, there's still ways that you can still engage with, you know, other male survivors, and you know, you can still, you know, be a part of you know, getting rid of that isolation. So. Yeah.
I kind of feel we've got one at the back. That's a wait question. No, you just had your hand in the voice. Okay, yeah, the lady over there.
Hello, because we're obviously trying to encourage men and boys to speak out so they can start their healing. Other than a sort of kind, gentle person, who are the people that you first disclose to start the process? And how can those people be more available?
Excellent question. You know, my initial disclosure was very difficult. I was going through a really tough time. I think I could best describe it as post-traumatic stress disorder, agoraphobia, sort of not wanting to go outside and be part of society, and yet you still have that drive and motivation in you to live your life and you know, be part of things. And so you start getting really frustrated. You're going, I want to do all these things, but I don't feel like I can. You know, I'm scared of this. I don't want to do this. And you just get to this point where you get so tense and upset. You know, you feel like this ball of fire, like you're going to explode. And that's how I felt initially. So I was, you know, I didn't even think that, you know, being sexually abused had anything to do with that behaviour. So, you know, I felt so bad, and I went to see a counsellor, and that's the first time I disclosed. And I think I was very young. Most guys don't disclose until they're much older, but it was about 23. So. Yeah, I mean, that was my initial disclosure, and it's been a long journey since then. But it wasn't really until I met other guys and could actually talk about it openly and honestly and relate to their experiences that, you know, I realised, you know, I'm extremely normal for what's gone on in my life. So.
First person I disclosed to was, oh sorry Peter, was my wife at the time, and she encouraged me to go to a men's counselling service, which I did. A while after that, I finished up engaging with the Western Australian mental health system for 3 years, and a lot of the things that Simon said in his talk rang very true for me. I told all of the psychiatrists in that service that I'd been abused, and none of them asked me any questions about it at all. So, how can those services be more available to men? I really don't know. But I guess, like Freddie said, there's just something inside that, you know, you just have to eventually tell somebody. I mean, I kept it secret for 33 years, so yeah, it's a long journey. But I don't know how to make that more available.
Thank you very much. Let's just squeeze one more in before the break. Just behind you, Max.
Hello, my name's Anne. I'm a psychologist, and I work with young people. And you know, I kind of routinely ask kids about this, but a lot of kids don't want to talk about it, and so you know, you get all sorts of avoiding answers. So I don't know in some cases whether these kids have been abused or not. Hopefully at some point I find out, but I'm really grateful for your for your coming over. I'm also Australian, so it's very nice to see you. Could you just say something about when you were kids, say as adolescents, what might have been a moment when you could have opened up to somebody and what would have triggered that? Because I think it's really important to try and catch people younger, as we all know.
Okay, I'll go first. I could never imagine a scenario when I was a kid where I would volunteer to tell someone. At the time, there's a lot of shame. You know, it's something to be kept secret, obviously, and I mean that's how it continues. So you're taught that, you know, this thing it's wrong, it's a secret. So you know you'd never. I don't think you would ever voluntarily disclose unless maybe you were being physically abused or something like that. in the cases where the manipulation from, in my case, from my brother, it's sort of your older brother, you don't want to get him in trouble, you're part of a family unit, you wouldn't want to upset your family, as part of the family, So, I wouldn't, and I think that's the case for most kids, is that they wouldn't. Had someone have asked me or spent more time to inquire about it, I mean, they probably would have. I probably would have told someone, emotionally, I probably would have been really upset, broken down, and blurted it out. But, I think there's just the key questions that you can ask, and you'll see from their body language and their emotion what the truth is.
If there was a moment that I can identify several incidents at school that I can remember of extreme or acute behaviour. My behaviour at secondary school changed radically from my behaviour at primary school after being abused. But I think it's fantastic that things like this are happening. When I eventually told my mother, she said, "Oh yes, your father and I thought that had happened." And so that sort of silence that we existed in, or I existed in at that time, it wasn't safe to tell anybody. So it's things like this and breaking down that cultural taboo and just making it, well, I'm now at the stage where I can sit in front of you and say that this has happened, but that's 4 years ago, I was nowhere near that. So.
And can I just add one more thing into that, is that especially when it's related to your family, it's highly likely as a kid you're not going to say anything, because they're the people that you rely on the most. They're your supporters and your protectors. So you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you, so to speak, as a kid. So,
guys, I think we're going to have to get a break and call it short there, and you'll hate me for not